So today in simplifying radical expressions, we're taking another step. We're going to have to simplify when a radical is in the denominator, like this example 1 or problem 1, 6 minus the square root of 3. So multiplying by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3 is not going to help us. So we're going to learn what's called the conjugate. This is very similar to what we've done with binomials when we multiplied a difference of squares and how the middle terms cancel. So if you have something like this, the conjugate of that would be this. Well, what is the difference? One has the plus sign, one has the minus sign. Everything else is the same. Kind of wrote over the R there, but you can see it there. So 3 plus the square root of 2, the conjugate of that is 3 minus the square root of 2. And we're going to use the FOIL method to multiply this. So the first term, 3 times 3 is 9. The outside terms would be the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, and it would be a minus sign, so it would be minus the square root of 4. Oh, wait a minute. Not supposed to be doing that way. My fault. Alright, so outside terms are these two, so minus, let's put my 9 back, so minus 3 times the square root of 2. The inside terms are going to be plus 3 times the square root of 2, and I was doing the last terms, which is minus the square root of 4. Well, here's what we want to happen. The middle terms do cancel, negative 3 times square root of 2 plus 3, so those are gone, and I have a perfect square here. This is the same as 9 minus 2, which is 7. So that's what that simplifies into. So what should happen is you will not have a radical in the denominator anymore. And again, we're multiplying by 1, so we'll have to multiply by the conjugate over itself. So what is the conjugate of 6 minus the square root of 3? It will be 6 plus the square root of 3. And I'm going to multiply by that over itself, so it's equal to 1. Now my suggestion is don't distribute yet, so I'm just going to put 2 times the quantity 6 plus the square root of 3, because we might have to simplify or cancel later. And down here, what happens when I multiply these two using the FOIL method? Well, 6 times 6 is 36. Remember, my outside would be 6 times the square root of 3, and my inside would be negative 6, so those are going to be gone, minus the square root of 3 times 3, 9. Or if you just want to put 3 squared, you can. So this becomes 36 minus 3, or 33 on the bottom. Now, can I cancel? Well, no, 2 doesn't go into 33, so in the numerator I am going to go ahead and distribute. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 2 times the square root of 3, all over 33. And then I look and make sure everything's simplified. Nothing underneath the radical can be simplified, and so I would be done. Remember, you can't add these two together because of the radical sign with the 3. They're like kind of like not like terms. So again, lots of little things to be aware of here. Alright, let's try this next one. So again, we want to multiply by the conjugate of the bottom, which would be 5 plus the square root of 2 over 5 plus the square root of 2. In the numerator, I'm just going to leave 3 times the quantity, 5 plus the square root of 2. Probably have to distribute later. The denominator, 5 squared is 25. My middle terms cancel, leaving me minus the square root of 4, which is 2. So 25 minus 2 would give me a 23 here. Nothing will cancel, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply on the top. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 3 times the square root of 2. Can't really do anything with that. All over 23. And again, nothing can simplify. Square root of 2 is simplified, so I'm going to. Alright, this next one's got some work on it. So, I want to multiply by the conjugate. So it's going to be multiplying by negative 4 minus the square root of 8. Negative 4 minus the square root of 8. So in the numerator, I'm just going to leave 2 times the square root of 5 times the quantity negative 4 minus the square root of 8. The denominator, negative 4 squared is 16 minus square root of 8 times square root of 8, square root of 8 squared. Alright, doesn't look like a square, but that's what it's supposed to be, which would be 16 minus 8, which is going to give me 8 down here. Now here's why I've been doing this, because look, now I can cancel this 2 up here, and remember it is factor, that's why I can cancel this. So 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 8 4 times. So now I'm going to distribute that square root of 5, so it'll be negative 4 times the square root of 5, minus, remember that rule we learned on the first day, the square root of 5 times the square root of 8 would be the square root of 40 all over 4. But I hope that we're aware of 40 has a perfect square in it, so I'm not done. So I guess I'm going over here where I have a little bit of room. Negative 4 times the square root of 5 minus, I'm going to break 40 down into 4 times 10, all over 4. I think I'm going to run out of room here. Negative 4 times the square root of 5, and now I'm going to factor out, or take the square root of 4, which is 2, so minus 2 times the square root of 10, all over 4. I'm still not done, so I'm going to have to erase some of this other stuff down here. So it'll have room. So remember, we ended up with a 4 down there. Because you should notice here we got a 4 in common and a 4 in common. Now, you really can't just cancel the 4 on the bottom and the 4 up here because of the minus sign in between, because they're not factors. So we are going to factor out the common term here, which in the numerator they have a 2 in common. So I'm going to factor out that 2, leaving me with negative 2 times the square root of 5 minus the square root of 10, all over 4. And now I'm going to cancel these two. So my final answer, maybe I can squeeze it in here, is going to be negative 2 times the square root of 5 minus the square root of 10, all over 2. So some of the problems take a little bit of work, so you got to make sure you continue to work, because if you don't notice this square root of 40, many of you might stop there. So always look for perfect squares before you think you're done. So that one took some time. Alright, and again we have one more here. So again, we want to get rid of that radical in the denominator, so I'm going to multiply by the conjugate. It has a 1, so it's going to be negative 4 minus 2 times the square root of 2, all over negative 4 minus 2 times the square root of 2. So in the top, I'm just going to leave it as factors because I might be able to cancel here in a minute. So negative 4 minus 2 times the square root of 2. On the bottom, negative 4 squared is 16. Now you got to be a little careful here. Remember, I'm multiplying this times this. Well, 2 times 2 is 4 times the square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2, so I bring that out. So this becomes 16 minus 4 times 2, which is 8. So I get an 8 down here. So I can now cancel this 2 with this 8 and get my 4. So I have the square root of 5. I'm going to go ahead and distribute that. So it's going to be negative 4 times the square root of 5 minus 2 times the square root of 10 all over 4. And again, now I should notice I also still have something in common here. I have a 2 in common, so I'm going to factor that 2 out. 2 times the square root of, whoops, that's not right, 2 times the quantity, negative 2 times the square root of 5 minus the square root of 10 all over 4. And now I cancel these two, leaving me negative 2 times the square root of 5 minus the square root of 10 all over 2. So lots of little things that you must watch for. These can become kind of difficult.